Good evening and welcome once again to Insight Live. It's great to be back after the break. And tonight, well, we're glad that you're with us. But tonight we are talking about children's books that matter. One of my best memories with my children is reading them books. And I remember when my father read me books and just how influential and how that shaped me. And tonight we're going to have some fun with two lovely authors.
Absolutely. Hi, and very, very warm welcome from me, Melanie, to Insight Live. It is great to be back from holiday and to be live again. I know some of you have been saying, oh, we want the live programs. Well, we are here live and we have the tablet right here waiting for your interactions. Tonight is going to be very special because although we're talking about children's books and we're talking to two, a children's author and illustrator, very exciting. It was one of the viewers, one of the viewers contacted me and said, my daughter and her friend, and so we're going to be speaking to them later. So we've actually really enjoyed, Kurt, people giving us some tip-offs as to somebody who's got giftings and things that are really happening. And we've always done that with Insight Live, always wanted to see who's doing what and how it's impacting the world. So we're going to be having Emma and George on just now. But we wanted to just kind of prompt you and ask you, what were your favorite books when you were a child? Or perhaps you're a mom or a grandmother, grandfather, dad. What are the books that you were reading to your children or to your grandchildren? What is the current kind of, temperature of what's kind of popular? Or are you bringing back those old books, just because for sentimental reasons? I know, Kurt, we were talking about this. I mean, I love A.L. Milne. My dad used to read, all sorts of things. We had Noddy and various other ones.
We didn't have those. I mean,
no, you didn't have those. We had Wind of the Willows. We had Wind of the Willows. That was one my mum used to read to us, and then my dad would read us Ernest Hemingway. The Old Man in the Sea. And I mean, obviously we're a little older than that, but we couldn't wait to hear the next chapter.
Well, this goes on and on and on and on.
It does.
But it's amazing. In our house in Granada, we have hundreds of children's books, and it's quite sentimental for me because in this one cottage that we have on our property is just filled with probably several hundred children's books, and each one is special. I mean, our children grew up with those books, so when I pick up a book, literally, it's just all these memories come flooding back when I'm sitting down with Kyle or Lauren or both of them, because we literally read to them every single night of their life, either from a Bible, a children's story, and it was just so absolutely amazing just to get transported back, 25 years ago. Like, for example, reading to Kyle, and I can almost picture what I was doing, where we were living, and it just brings back memories, and I love it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I started to do was to actually tell the children stories. I just make them up on the spur of the moment. I'm sure it was the Holy Spirit, but I mean, if I had actually written those down and published them, I probably would be a well-known children's author, but I have not. And I think the anointing has left me because my kids are small. But Kurt,
you have to wait till grandchildren.
Yes, I will. Yeah. But, the thing about children's books, the influence that they have, I mean, we were talking about how actually, when you give a book to a child about, perhaps a family that grew up in a different country, or perhaps speaks another language, or eats other types of food, or the way they dance. Like if an English child or an African child reads a story about an Indian child in India and how they dress and what they like to eat, and vice versa, maybe China, all these rich cultures that we have in this world. One of the things that we find is that children really, they actually develop empathy, they develop understanding, they start to understand history a little better as well as they read books and as they start to realize that the world is a little bigger than themselves with different people, and they learn to understand and have empathy about other people's situations.
Well, I don't know if it's known in the UK, but my all-time favorite children's book was Curious George. And it dealt with this little monkey, and then his owner was this tall, thin man with a yellow hat, I think it was, and they would travel all around the world, and it instilled curiosity in me. You know, there's something about that. I can just close my eyes right now, and I'm probably in Europe right now because of that book and books like that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. It was my mother, my father, just pushing books my way. I mean, every Valentine's Day, Christmas, birthday, even Halloween, you name it, I would get new books. And I would read those books, or I'd have those books read to me, and they shaped me. And yeah, just asking viewers, what children's book shaped you the most? What children's books made you come alive, or what children's books can you still remember today that's influenced your life? We'd love to hear your emails. Just like keep them coming.
So I actually do have an email already, so let's just start with this. I think we're going to start with this poem. Dennis, amazing how you come up with these things, incredible. It says, when I was but a tiny lad, my teacher gave advice that there were more joys to be had, and they would make me wise. The library had books galore, and comics could not match, and I explored these more and more, and read these by the batch. 6 books each time were mine to share for children who still cared, and some were Christian books on prayer, so I could get prepared. The Bible helped me find the Lord in Sunday school one day. Salvation was my sweet reward that none could steal away. And when I had the cash, I could use to share the gospel too. It's children's books I would choose to get the message through. This is so good. The Bible's such a super book when pictures can be seen. If illustrated, take a look, then you'll know what I mean. What precious treasures God bestows across the world right now to teach each child that grows and grows in righteous faith somehow. Take hold of treasures while you can, so that your hearts get blessed, so that you help your fellow man each time you do your best. Wow. And that is the 30th of August, 2022.
Okay, that's great.
You are amazing. I love this. I really love that. Children's books matter. They certainly do, certainly do. So Kurt, for me, I just want to just kind of mention to the viewers that, you know, there are different ways of using children's books, and actually some of the stories are fantastic metaphors. And my supervisor, who oversees me with my psychotherapy, as a supervisor, she's written books, and I bought all her books, and I've actually been able to use those children's stories even for adults, because sometimes telling a story of somebody's difficulties and of how they overcame those difficulties sometimes can actually trigger something in your mind about that you can overcome something, that you can get through the trials and tribulations. But our guests tonight...
Well, even some of the books that we have, I mean, one's called A Seed of Faith, and I really like that, you know, because, you know, all the other animals would tease the little seed. You're going to become this big tree or whatever like that. No, you're not. Look how little you are. And I think there's great metaphors for the Christian. I mean, Jesus uses the concept of a seed, for example, or a vine, and they're not children's stories, but children can relate to, you know, being in the vine or a seed, and they're very relatable stories. So let's go to, I like to introduce them as award-winning authors.
Yes.
Because they were, and we'll hear the story about that. But we're going to go to Emma Allen and George Peters, and they're going to magically appear on the screen and say hello to us right now. Oh,
hi, there they are.
Right.
Hi, Emma. Hi, George. George, we just have to clarify for the viewers, George as in Georgina, but you're known as George. So we want to give you a very, very warm welcome from our Revelation TV viewers. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us. We are so excited the way that you are expanding. I mean, since we last spoke, your new book has come out. So we are longing to actually just find out who you are, what is your inspiration, and how you know each other. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Great. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for having us on. So I'm Emma. I'm the author.
I'm George, and I illustrate books.
So we've known each other now for 22 years, I think.
Yeah.
We met at church before we were teenagers, and basically we were forced to be friends by our parents.
Well, Emma was actually an answer to prayer. So I was bullied at school, and I found it really hard to find friends in school at the time. And so my mum was like, "Why don't we pray for a friend?" I was like, "All right, okay." So we prayed for a friend, and Emma came into my life. And to be fair, is an absolute answer to prayer, and like a sister that I never knew. I mean, I have sisters as well, so but she's another sister, and best friend. So.
Oh, that is so lovely, so lovely. So what about the kind of like, what happened that you thought, okay, we're going to write a story, or we're going to write books, or never knew that you were going to get awards? What kind of where did that seed come from?
So I've been wanting to write children's books for quite a long time, and had toyed with the idea of writing kind of like normal secular children's books. But I think just like a lot of people have maybe a dream, but just do not know how to make that into a reality, really. And then A Little Town Called Hope, which is the first book that I wrote, that was kind of an inspiration I got from God whilst I was praying. Some family friends went through a really awful situation a couple of years ago and lost their daughter Amelia in a really sad accident. And I was asking God about hope and about our emotions and how he created us. And there was one evening where I was in the bathroom, which I feel like, because that's where the kids can't go, is the only time I get a bit of headspace. And
Sorry, let's just backtrack here. You have one child and you're pregnant with your second, is that right?
I've got two and I'm pregnant with my
Oh my goodness, I just missed that one. And then
happened?
what about you, George?
I have one little 3-year-old.
Oh my goodness. See, because you look like teenagers to us. So you seriously don't look like you've got that many children. Anyway, carry on.
So I was just praying about hope and emotions, and basically it was a bit like a Holy Spirit download, just very, very quickly.
In the bathroom.
In the bathroom, yeah. Got this poem really that kind of came to my mind, and I had to. It's one of those moments where I just had to rush out and just write it all down. I remember shouting to my husband, being like, "Where are the pens? Where are the pens?" And just essentially wrote out this kind of poem in an evening, and then I didn't really know what to do with it. It was just the way that I was processing things with God at the time. Sent it to George because I guess that's what best friends do. I just wanted someone else to read it. And that was Christmas 2020. And then my birthday was in the February. And as a surprise, she'd actually decided to illustrate it for me because she knew that I'd wanted to write books for ages. She saw this poem and felt led, I guess, by the Holy Spirit and inspired, I suppose, to do that, and knew that if I could just get maybe a physical copy in my hands, that actually that would kind of catapult us into actually doing it properly.
Wow. What a prophetic gift. Real prophetic gift.
I nailed the birthday gift that year. Normally I'm rubbish, but I actually got her
There were tears. I wept.
Oh, amazing. So that's The Little Town of Hope. I've got this here, and I've really, really enjoyed reading it. And you know what really has struck me is that all the way through, you've got these little moments in time where hope springs out of nothingness. I don't know whether you can see. Let's look at the first one here, where you've got actually. Let's see. Here we go. Here we've got anger here. Mm-hmm. So we have anger here. And so do you want to kind of explain that the kind of the first idea of we start with anger and then going through the various different characters and how they find hope?
Sure. I suppose for me, I wanted to really focus on the fact that God is the creator of all of our emotions. Mm-hmm. And actually there are quite a few emotions, maybe like anger, sadness, fear that can seem really negative and that people can be quite scared of, and yet we experience them kind of all the time. And they happen to be anger, sadness, fear, and joy were the 4 emotions that came to me quite quickly. So I wasn't that I planned it so much, but it was just really interesting for me how God showed me a kind of a glimpse into how all of those emotions can either be kind of grounded and given a purpose when they're based in hope, and when you know that there's a reason for them, and there's a kind of power that comes with that, because you can use them, I suppose, for their good, but also for joy. Like joy can be something that can be so fleeting, or at least happiness can be. And I think people expect happiness to kind of just come and go depending on your circumstances, but actually joy, when it's based in hope and in who God has made us to be, and in the way that he's designed our emotions, actually it can be eternal. So kind of the idea of it, all of our emotions having a purpose, and wanting to explain that in a child sort of friendly way.
Do you know, I think one of the things that I've really noticed is, and which I love because I do children's ministry, is that when you spoke about anger, you allowed it to be a natural thing. This is something that God actually created us to have, because righteous anger is a right thing. And then so you've got the burning anger, and then it says, but aim her anger at the hurt and the wrong things that she sees, then she can break injustice and can set the captives free. And there you have anger actually shooting rainbows and setting those birds free. And I think the idea of this is actually giving children permission to acknowledge their feelings. And I think a lot of times the way, especially how my parents grew up, sometimes within my generation as well, that they would actually not allow children to really express their feelings, that, a child must be seen and not heard. Yeah. You've got to be good, all that kind of stuff. So there's no kind of reasoning with why somebody would be feeling angry, and then how to use that anger in a positive way. So I really love the way that you've done that.
No one's taught how to process their anger.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a little kid, wipe that smile off your face, you shut up, you be quiet, I'm always hearing from you, don't pout, don't cry. And you're getting all of these things. And the world is basically saying to the child, don't express yourself, don't even be yourself. And I think, these are like big words to kids. Hope, beauty, anger, emotions, and so on. So if they can learn empathy, and if they can learn about, like, for example, the Word of God would say God is the God of all hope, for example. But a child of 4 really doesn't know what hope is. But if he reads the book, A Town Called Hope, he will know what hope is. He'll be able to visualize hope. And this is what I like about these books. And this is why I think it's so important. So when he hears that God is a God of all hope, suddenly he goes back to that children's book he read and said, I know what hope is, or I know what anger is. And it teaches them to think in pictures, which is fabulous.
Yeah, I'm going to just kind of pause on this book because I do want to show the illustrations of sadness, but we've got a few emails coming in, so I want to just kind of keep it going. Obviously, our viewers, you are intrigued by this wonderful subject, so this is great. So Michael, you've written, hi, I read Enid Blyton, yes, I forgot to mention those books, and I think it was called The Magic of the Faraway Tree. Do you know that one, Kurt?
No.
And it really opened my mum and to heaven. Sorry, it's not clear what your writing is. The author describes a heavenly scenario, but she then goes on to describe others. And this opened my mind to different variations of heaven, because before this I only had one thought, that there was a heaven. Yes, and now, when we discuss about the new heaven and new earth, the new Jerusalem coming down, then we really start getting detailed. Thank you for that, Michael. Let me see who else we have here. We have Donna. Hi, Donna. Lovely that you could be with us. We've got, my grandmother read The Little Black Lamb to me a lot as I grew up, and then bought a copy for me, which I still have. The story and morals still stay with me to this day. Wow, Donna. I actually don't know The Little Black Lamb. Do you girls know The Little Black Lamb?
Yeah, I think actually that's my sister who just
Hi,
wrote
Donna.
So the little black lamb was the one that our granny used to read to us, and she always put on this really cute voice for the lamb. It's essentially the story of the lost sheep, and the sheep, runs away, and Jesus, a shepherd, goes and finds it and brings it back. But it was quite an old-fashioned book. I think it was probably from the 30s, or I don't know. I'm just guessing. But it's one that I really remember as well. So it's fun that Donna remembers it too.
That's great. And then we also have one. I'm not sure who this is from. It's. Let me just see. So it says, I wasn't well when I was 9 years old, and my mum bought me Anne of Green Gables. I love that story.
Oh, I love
I
that story.
absolutely relished this book. I was 9. I love the character Matthew Cuthbert, and decided when I have my son, he will be called Matthew. I did have a son, now 48. His name's Matthew, after Matthew Cuthbert. And I became a Christian at 29. So even better, my son was given a biblical name. My granddaughter, Hope, also, her name's Hope, lovely, loves Anne of Green Gables by Elizabeth Montgomery. I'm 71 years old, lots of love. Thank you so much for sharing. Next time you need to tell us your name. Thank you. Any thoughts or comments to this beautiful reader?
Well, I think you've definitely chosen a very nice name for your daughter.
Yeah.
It's stunning. My second daughter's middle name is Hope. And I love that. I love the name, and I love what it means and everything. It's great.
Absolutely. And I think Anne of Green Gables, if we're talking about themes of kind of overcoming and working through emotions, I think Anne of Green Gables, she gets so angry and all these things.
We watched those movies when we were newly married.
We did?
They had some really nice
Yes,
series.
they did. Yeah, Anne of Green Gables, yeah. I think there's a new series. Okay, let me go back to a little town called Hope. And I just wanted to show the viewers the beautiful illustration. George, this is just so creative, absolutely amazing. And there you have sadness there, sitting in the rain. Come on, girls, make a comment. And, maybe, George, you want to talk about some of the inspiration behind these lovely illustrations.
So it was tricky, obviously, when I had the book. Obviously, it was a poem when Emma gave it to me, and obviously when I decided to turn it into a book, I had never illustrated a book before in my life. I am a graphic designer, I do graphics, so I knew I could turn it into a book, but I had to obviously draw all the pictures, which I obviously do art, and I love art, but illustrating is a whole thing. And so to turn 3 very complex emotions into child-friendly characters that are not scary, but it was a real tricky task for myself. And anger was definitely the hardest one. Sadness kind of was hard as well, because I wanted him to be sad, but I didn't want him just to be depressing. Do you know what I mean? I wanted that kind of, it was such a balance to get them right. I mean, joy was a joy to do.
Well, here's joy. Here we have joy. Joy is
lovely, yeah.
very interesting that you've got joy. Look, it's so shiny and bright and yellow, swinging from a tree. Couldn't have a care in the world.
Exactly.
That is absolutely, actually, that personality is really contagious. And I think you've really captured it so well, George.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Very lovely.
And then when we did Fear, it was I wanted Fear to be look scary, in the sense that he might look like a monster, but actually he was quite scared himself. A little bit like Monsters Inc. The characters are monsters, but they're not monsters. And I think when I drew Fear, I wanted him to, again, they're complex emotions to draw for children. But hopefully I got the message across.
I love Fear. He's my favourite.
Well, he actually looks really cuddly, even though he's,
Yeah.
So let's give the viewers a little look at here. Oh, we've got some there. We've got the four characters there, and this is how George filled in all the details there. It's absolutely beautiful. Wow.
So this is the early stages. Obviously, I still was working out. Joy was, obviously, you can see she doesn't change much, but anger was definitely the trickiest one, because I didn't want her to look devilish. I didn't want her to look scary, but I wanted her to show her power, but also to see a beauty in her. And that was really tricky to get right. So she had the most work done to her, I think, in the end. But it was, I drew it all in on an iPad, which I've never done digital drawing like this before. So it was really fun to be able to do it and to build all the layers and tweak it. It's really fun.
Wow. Just incredible. And you're absolutely right. You know, with children's books, you have to be so careful that things don't look like demons or too scary. I think you've hit it here. And I mean, I think they really move you. Each of them have a little story.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that a bird's nest? What is this, a bird?
So Emma is a lover of obviously children's books and was obsessed with the fact that each one had to have detail. So we always had to add in a snail or a word.
They're called moments. They're an actual thing.
They're an actual thing.
So
I have no idea.
So I love reading children's books, and even though I can't draw for toffee, I feel like I can get a good idea of maybe the way things can look. And then I just say to George, please do this because I can't draw. But something that I've always noticed and also have just read about in my research is that, you know, a good children's book has moments where the children aren't necessarily reading the words because they're being read to, but you might have the basic story going on within the illustrations and the words, but then there's always things in the background, whether there's we've got in all three of our books, we have a scared worm and like little animals that are interacting or something interesting on the page or like a hidden feature. And I love that sort of thing. It's the sort of thing that I always used to look for in books and the sort of thing that my children find hilarious. And often when we read some of their favourite books, the things that they point out and that we talk about aren't necessarily to do with the main story. It's to do with all the moments and the different things that you see in the background of the pages that they really love spotting. So I really wanted to get these moments into the book.
Yeah,
oh, that's lovely. So the illustrations that we're seeing now are from You Are Loved.
Yeah.
And I just love the way that you take each little, you know, every time you turn the page, you are somewhere else. Yeah. And no matter where you are loved. And it really takes that scripture, you know, it says, is it Psalm 139, you know, if you go to settle the far side of the sea, I'm with you. It's just absolutely lovely. So this particular one is, look at all those little features just going on as you have the space.
And building the detail.
Wow.
It makes me so happy.
In this one, Emma wanted, and her vision was that, unlike Hope, which obviously was the first time we'd ever done it, this one she wanted the full scene. So, like you say, every page was a new adventure, a new place. So we go from the stars in the sky to the under the water to in the hillsides. You know, it really
the hot air balloon.
Yeah, nowhere you could go would outstretch where God can reach you.
Yeah, and I think especially with this one being our second book, but our first one that we kind of really purposefully did together. I just wanted to bring all the joy and the fun and the adventure of, I guess, what you could call like a regular children's book. So something that was equally as exciting for a child to read, but then also had a really strong message with it. So I wanted it to be fun and colourful. And George just has this incredible ability to take an idea that I have in my head and make it like 20 times better than I could ever imagine. So it's always really fun when she sends me her pictures because I have a kind of idea of what she's doing and then I see it and I'm always blown away. She's so talented.
It does help we've been friends, I think. We definitely know each other's minds a little bit.
So I don't know whether we have, with our technicians can get hold of them, but I just wanted to just show it. So we have the forest scene here, which is absolutely so much detail, and you can see here just, I mean, absolutely, you can spend ages on this page with a child just going through it. But also the fact that the next page is now taking you somewhere completely different.
But you know, just to interrupt,
just let me just show it quickly.
Yeah.
So we're going underneath the sea now. And so wherever you are loved. And I think all the way through the book, you've got all these various scenarios, which are teaching opportunities as well, Kurt.
Yeah. But sometimes I think the illustrations tell more of the story than actually the words many times.
Yeah.
Because if you're a kid, if I was a kid, I would just be trying to draw things like that, but I would be so stuck in the details. And I would I would feel as if I was putting on my diving gear and going under the ocean and looking at all of those fish, and maybe I would give them names and we would play around with it. So I think that's something that's misunderstood in a lot of with illustrators.
Yeah.
I think George has this ability to just draw us into a world, and no wonder they're award-winning. They have to tell us that story.
It does happen.
So tonight I was having a little plate of pasta, waiting for the studio to open, and I met up with Bior, and then we came here.
Was the pasta good?
And it was okay.
Oh, that's not a good test.
But the thing was that a family came, and these huge iPad things with stands, kind of butterfly things, the kids hadn't even started eating, and those things were set in place. And I just thought, you know what? A book like this would be so much better than those moving pictures where you don't have any imagination. The child was like this close, and I thought maybe the child needs glasses. But it was so disappointing, and I could see some of the Spanish elderly people just looking, going, "Are you got to be joking me? This is how you're raising your children." So just kudos to you, really, in an era where, people are like going, "Oh no, it's all about digital, moving things." Maybe we should go on to your next book, your most recent book. But first of all, before we go on to your next book, I want to finish with A Little Town Called Hope. I did not show you the last picture, which is actually really not the second last picture. So we have Jesus there. We have all the different scenarios here. Remember, we looked at fear, joy, anger, sadness. And then the very last picture, so that's Jesus hugging somebody. And then the very last picture is just God has everything in his hands. Just really beautiful, really well
learn that
illustrated.
song. He's got the whole...
Love
We used to sing that at summer camp all the time.
Yeah. So, okay, Kurt, do you want to ask questions about the latest project?
No, I do. I want to ask a question about, tell us why you're award winning. And by the way, I would give you an award if I had one. Tell us that story.
We would take it. Well, so it started because I won a netball match with my netball team, which never happens, ever. And I came back from netball one night in November last year, and I was absolutely pumped because we never win. And I said to Paul, my husband, I was like, if I can win a netball match, I can win a book award. Now, I'm not sure why they were linked in my head. But I was very excited.
Was it the impossibility of it?
Yeah, exactly. So I looked up, I just Googled really awards for small printing presses and independent publishers. Because a lot of awards that you enter, you normally have to have a publisher kind of enter it on your behalf. But we're self-published, so we don't have that. So it had to be a kind of self-publishing and small press thing, and found this this awards thing in America called the Christian Indie Award. And I just thought, you know what, I'm really proud of Hope, and why not? I think sometimes you just have to push a door and see if it opens. So I had to write a little blurb about the book. I had to send a couple of copies over to America, and we just had to wait and see, basically. And that was in November, and then in March at the beginning of March we were told that we were finalists, and then about a month later we found out that we've been awarded the Christian Indie Award.
That is incredible.
Yes,
congratulations. It's so exciting. So exciting. Wow. So we have the latest book, which actually when we spoke to you hadn't come out yet, and it's actually on a pre-order, and it is called A Seed of Faith. Come on, tell us a little bit about that.
So this is our third children's book now, which is kind of completing a faith, hope and love trilogy.
Beautiful.
It's lovely. It's about a little seed who dreams of being a tree and being able to, have families growing and being nurtured in it and being tall and all these things. And it's just meant to be really fun. It's got all these animals in it, and they kind of all laugh at him and say, "Oh, you're tiny. You're never going to be a big tree. Who do you think you are?" And then just this lion. So I think lions are such a good metaphor to use because children love lions, and it's, for George, it's fun to draw, I think. But also you have the Lion of Judah in the sense that a lion really represents, God and Father God. So you have this lion who comes along and actually encourages the seed and says, I know all these dreams that you have, and I have a purpose for you that's kind of bigger and more beautiful than you could ever imagine. Just have faith. And he kind of plants this seed of faith I suppose, within the seed's heart. And at the end, the seed's grown into this big tree, and all the animals who had doubted his faith come along, and they see that actually his faith has borne fruit, and it's a testimony towards the seed's faith, but also how that can be an amazing testimony to other people as well when you have faith in something and they are able to witness it come about. So yeah, it's at the printers right now, and we're due to receive it at the beginning of September, and it's on pre-order, on Cheerfully Given and Etsy today.
Absolutely amazing. Well, we'll remind the viewers towards the end of the interview where they can get everything. But I'm actually so excited that you've just, it's like hardly any time has passed and you've gone straight ahead and you've done that. Now you've got the tree. I wanted to also, just before we started the program, I was kind of like scratching around trying to find out about the new projects that you might be looking at. So come on, give us a little taste of some of the things that might be in the pipeline.
So there's a couple that I've pretty much completely written or very kind of nearly finished that are in the pipeline, and it's just a matter of really asking God / George which one we think we should do next.
So has George do you do that like little demo ones just to kind of make it come alive before it's finished, or does she finish everything and then you have to come up with something?
She normally sends over the book, and then I see how I would bring it back. And if she has an idea of what she does, although she says she can't draw, she does have she's very good at sketching out ideas and helping me understand what her vision is, obviously what's in her head, as much as what she wants me to interpret it as well. So yeah, we kind of go back and forth, and being friends like we are, we can be just like, no, that's exactly it. No, that's not it. And it just seems to work. Our work friendship really does seem to work. Some friends can't work together, but we found we absolutely can.
It's really fun, actually.
So how does it work with your, raising a family and kind of, obviously, you're working as well or whatever. I mean, how does that work?
Well, it's tricky, but you kind of, if you're doing something you really love with someone you love, it does make it easier. And we kind of, because we don't work in a 9-to-5 scenario, we can work whenever works best. I work really well, really early in the morning, and I think you work at night, aren't you?
Yeah.
And we just work around it, and we kind of FaceTime each other, even if there's a child screaming in the background, you just deal with it. It's just life. And that's fine. And we work out, and we normally work quite separately, but then we come together and obviously discuss stuff, and it just flows.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm on a permanent maternity leave at the moment, so I haven't been back to any sort of work as such for about 5 years.
Wow, so the baby's due in October?
Yeah, October.
That's very exciting. Now, you need to give Kurt and the viewers just a little taste of maybe some of the ideas of these other books that are coming. Come on, give us a little taste.
Okay, so one of them is about forgiveness. So I wanted to create a really fun but clever way of kind of introducing that topic that wasn't heavy, but that really explains to children why forgiveness is so important and how it can really bring freedom and colour back into their lives. So again, it's fun. It's about a bear who walks into a forest. And he comes across a couple of things that hurt him. So he puts his hand in a honey pot and gets stung by a bee. He says, I will not forgive this bee. I'm just going to walk on with this sting in me. He scratches his back on a tree and gets a splinter in it and says, I won't forgive that tree. And essentially kind of falls into more and more unforgiveness.
Oh, dear.
And then, then he, I know, poor bear. And then he comes across another animal who essentially starts to minister to him and starts showing him why forgiveness is so important and how actually that can really help him and bring the colour back into his life and stuff. And he forgives, and then he sees all the beauty in everything. But to make it really, the one thing that I felt God actually showed me this book in my mind in pictures before I actually wrote it, which never happens to me because normally I get the words first, but I actually saw the book in my head before coming up with the storyline.
Oh, that's a bit threatening, isn't it, George?
But in this one, it's going to start off in full colour. And as the bear falls into more and more unforgiveness, it's going to go black and white.
Wow.
And then when the bear forgives again, it's going to go back into colour. And I think for children, it's just a visual cue to show that actually unforgiveness can really steal the joy, and it can really steal the beauty in life, and how for ourselves it's just such a good thing to learn how to forgive and how that can bring beauty back into it. So there might be a colouring page at the back or something. You want it to be quite interactive again at the end, where they're going to shake the book and turn the page and all the colour kind of comes back. So that's wanting to take what I think is quite an important topic but make it child friendly and fun. There's another one about a time machine, which I'm really excited about, which is going to essentially transport. It's an interactive book, so the whole book, every page, you have to do something to the book, whether it's turn it upside down, shake it, high five it, or whether it encourages the children maybe to do certain actions. And the whole idea is that they get into this time machine and it will take them to 3 Old Testament stories, and they're going to see God speaking to somebody, so Moses, and then the Israelites at the wall of Jericho, and then Daniel when he gets thrown to the lions. And in each one you'll be asked to kind of act out what these characters have been told to do in faith, and the children will have to march around and blow trumpets and that sort of thing, and then they'll turn the page and the walls are going to have come down. It's going to be all dusty, so they're going to have to blow the book to blow the dust away. And I just wanted to do some Old Testament stories, but in a way that was really just captured their imagination. And if they act it out and they actually have some sort of relationship with the book, which goes beyond just sitting and listening, I think it really helps to hone in like the messages, and they kind of remember it, and they remember the feeling of marching around and being like, what's going to happen? Why are we marching? This is a wall. What's going on? Why has God asked us to do this? And then to show that actually when you are faithful to what God asks you to do, amazing things happen.
Wow.
So that's another.
Now that is such a whole transition going to an interactive type of thing, because I've been following there's this one company that are making like an iBible where you swipe and that kind of thing. But I think the simplicity and the ability to be able to participate, because you're right, as soon as a child participates, it's imprinted, there's memory, there's recording going on. I mean, swiping a page is one thing, but actually participating with a story is a whole different thing. That's really exciting. We'll be praying for you, and can't wait to have you back to see how that goes. I'm going to go to our viewers now and just kind of include them a little more. Hi, Anita. Lovely that you are with us. Thank you so much for writing in, and your title is Children's Books. Hi, Kurt and Melanie. It's lovely to have you both back with us. Some of my favourite was Enid Blyton, The Folk of the Faraway. The Folk of the Faraway Tree series, and the Chronicles of Narnia. They were full of magical lands and interesting characters. I've always made up stories for my children I've taught, and I love telling stories. Blessings and love, Anita. Anita, that's lovely, really lovely. I think just that creativity is just so from God. Who's this from? This is from Les. Hi, Les. You said, I seem to remember a children's book that had a picture of fishermen on the front. It was about Jesus saying to his disciples, I shall make you fishers of men. I should have been about 8 years of age at the time, very different to comics such as The Dandy and Beano. Yeah, I remember those. With stories about Desperate Dan and Dennis the Menace.
I remember Dennis the Menace.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you would have known Dennis the Menace, definitely. That would have caught your...
He's American.
It would have caught your attention, along with what's it, Curious George?
Yes.
Somebody getting into trouble, like you. Oh, amazing. Okay, what else can we ask these?
But let's look at it. I mean, say if you're doing one on rejection or something, even adults, we don't know how to process emotions. Like, for example, if I get a cut, I know I put some antiseptic on it, I put a Band-Aid on it, I know how to get cut. But what if somebody rejects me? What do I do? Most adults I know they'll self-isolate, they'll get angry, they'll start accusing, they'll go out and get a drink, and and very few people know how to process these emotions, such as anger and rejection and fear. And the Bible is clear in many ways how to process that. But why not learn it as a child, Melanie?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you know how to deal with with rejection when you're 6 years old, and most people I know don't even know how to deal with rejection when they're 60 years old. Let's learn this as children. Why wait?
Well, I think because of my studies with psychotherapy, a lot of psychoeducation is so important. And I think if children can understand why bullying happens, how to stand up against it, how not to be offended when somebody insults you, and to actually have empathy towards that person, because you never know what's happening at home and why they need to be a bully or why they need to say something nasty to you. So, perhaps those are also ideas for books in the future for you guys as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We're always looking for ideas.
Yeah, definitely. Take inspiration in a lot of places.
Yeah, how would you draw a bully? That's interesting.
Yeah, George.
Ordinary person.
And I'd probably draw an animal bully just to
Okay.
keep it.
Right.
It is tricky.
Yeah, absolutely. So how old are your children?
So my eldest is 5.5. Lana has just turned 3, and we're due for our 3rd in October. So we'll have 5, 3, and 0 for a while.
So now, are you reading these stories? Are these stories, it's obviously the 5-year-old, but like 3, is that too young for this kind of concept, or do you think they still pick up a little bit?
Yeah, so my son's 3.5, and he didn't let me read A Little Town of Hope for a long time to him. He knew I wrote it. Well, no, he knew I'd drawn the pictures, and he was like, "That's Mummy's book." No, I don't want you to read it. So I was like, "Thanks." But when we did start to read it, he does love it, and he likes, like you say, to point out the details. And that at his age, he's noticing the little things, like the little worm, and this person looks happy and this person looks sad. And, obviously, like you say, that at different stages of a child's development, they're going to notice and be able to take on different things. And I know a lot of my friends who have got slightly older children, older than you probably read it to, but are listening in when they are, when their parents read it to the younger children, and they are able to talk about some more complex issues. And, because obviously the thing, the pandemic and everything we've gone through in the last couple of years as a worldwide thing, a lot of people have been affected in different ways, and it's opening up conversations with maybe young people that, fear is, it's okay to be fearful, it's okay to be angry, and how does, God deal with that? And it's able for some parents with older children to open up some doors to some bigger conversations, basically.
And what I love about... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And what I love about the kind of trilogy as a whole, actually, is that A Little Town Called Hope, there is a lot more scope for kind of the older children, kind of 6, 7, and 8, to really get a good conversation out of them about their emotions and everything. But if eventually you can buy them obviously individually, but before Christmas we'll release them as a little kind of faith, hope, and love package. And the idea is that actually kind of through from the age of 2 until they get to about 8, each book has something to kind of offer them. So Loved is probably the most basic, in the sense that it doesn't talk about anything particularly complicated. It just has these epic pictures, loads of detail, really fun settings, and it just encourages them to know that they are loved no matter what. Faith then goes a little bit further than that, and you can start talking about your dreams and how God sees you and how God's created you. And kind of for 3 and 4-year-olds, maybe starting school, actually that's really great to know that that you can have faith in a God that is bigger than your circumstances. And then as you get kind of a little bit older again, then hope allows you to start having those in-depth conversations, like we said. So I love the idea that actually as a trilogy, it's kind of a set of books that can take children on a really great kind of almost like a God-like spiritual journey, but from a really young age to kind of 8 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And there's even adults, we've had parents that have got in touch and been like, I've read this to my children, and it's actually been exactly what I needed, and God's actually said some stuff to me while I'm reading it. And so that's quite cool that the reason why I even came about is because when I read it, it was stunning, and I was like, this is such a God-given gift, and it's something much deeper than just a simple children's book. It touches on a lot of other levels, and you know. So
I have a
Absolutely.
really good friend in Nottingham who bought Hope when we first got it out. When we first bought it out, she's called Lisa. She's so nice, and she sent me a really long message a couple of months ago, saying that she's always found that she's kind of like struggled with the fact that she can get really angry about things, but no one has ever explained to her that anger is actually passion towards injustice and how it can be used in a really positive way if you just learn how to kind of aim it in the right direction. And it was that I found so moving. I was so touched that she told me, but also just to know that, as you know, she's the parent and this is a children's book, but it really impacted her. And that's why I love doing this, because actually the Holy Spirit, as you're saying, can minister on so many different levels, and children and parents alike are hopefully being encouraged by them.
So I just want to tell because when I spoke to you, I told you that I used this little book, the Hope book, for one of my Sunday school Kids Connect times. And the kids just absolutely loved it, because it really was on those different levels, because I had kids from 2 right up to the age of like 10 or 11, and just kind of opening out and kind of expanding on it, and then asking questions in between and all that. So I just think there are so many multi-purposes. I'm just really impressed, especially with the little town called Hope.
Well, I read
it
a
does
little
have so
bit
much
of
levels.
a seed of faith, and just seeing a little seed, and some of the animals are teasing it, you know, and saying, "Oh, you know, you're not going to become like this tree or anything." But imagine if you do like that. There it is, right there, and you're teaching a Sunday school class. And you bring in these little seeds, you know. And then one seed is from like a redwood tree that you could drive a car through. It's so big. And then you just get the children to guess what it would be.
Yeah.
And then you transfer it to them. You know, what do you want to be as you're growing up, and so on. And it's very powerful. And then the lion comes along and plants that seed of faith. It's very powerful for adults as well.
Absolutely. Well, Kurt, I think we should talk about where our viewers can buy
we're
these
running out of
books.
time
We
already.
need to be asking where can we get these books. So I have 2 main places where you can get these books, and Etsy, which you can do pre-orders, and the one that they've recommended, these lovely girls have recommended, Cheerfully Given. Is that right? Cheerfullygiven.com.
Yeah.
Which is actually where they got the award from. But this is a very special website, because it has a lot of Christian products, really quality, creative. It's like one place where you can get good Christian products. Cheerfullygiven.com. And then you can go ahead and you can do pre-orders for these books, The Hope, Love, and Faith. Is that right?
Seed of Faith.
Yep, Seed of Faith.
In order
And,
of the
and so
faith
it would
you could do.
actually, you could buy ahead of time, and you could actually store it for a Christmas present, for your grandchild, for your child, or if you even teach a class. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to read one of these aloud and to strike conversation, even with teens. I think you could easily use some of these for teens. I've even read, you know, in some of my therapy classes, children's stories, and it's been so impactful, because you don't explain to the person what it means. You just read the story, and immediately they clock where they fit in, where they're hurting, where they can talk about.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've got to say goodbye. Emma and George, we want to thank you so much for taking
Thank you
time
for
to be
having
with
us.
us. Thank you on behalf of all our viewers. I know there were so many more who didn't write in and are wanting to get your book. So you can get that at cheerfullygiven.com and on Etsy, and you can do a pre-order. Thank you so much for being with
Thank
us.
you so much, Emma and George. It's been a great time.
God
with
bless you.
guys. God
Bye-bye.
bless.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Wow.
Wow.
That was
it just
went so
it
quickly,
seemed like it
didn't
was just
it?
3 minutes. The whole bam, so fast. Any last email?
We do have a quick seed of faith. A teeny weeny seed had faith. I'll grow and be a tree. The animals thought it was brave to have such a certainty and get a lion, then drew near. Believe yet patient be. The teeny weeny seed took cheer in his great prophecy. Think a lion proved my friend, would agree, and my great dream he would defend as it set me free. My word is like God on my side, and if it meant to be, praise God for all the grace supplied for this my destiny. Sorry, I had to read it so quickly because we are finishing. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
We leave you with that. We all have these seeds of faith in us, and they can grow into more wonderful things than we can ever imagine. It's been really great to be with you. Thank you so much for your participation, your emails, and big thanks to Emma and George. It's been absolutely great, and we will see you next week. God bless you.
God bless you. Bye-bye.